What if the memes were never just memes? You scroll past another post, a cartoon billionaire hoarding gold, a worker drowning in spreadsheets, a smiley face slapped on existential dread. You laugh, or at least, you used to. Now the laughter feels hollow, recycled, like laughing at your own funeral because everyone else is doing it. Late-stage capitalism has become an internet aesthetic, a punchline, but behind the satire lies something more brutal, something bleeding beneath the surface. Because this isn't a joke, not when people are choosing between food and insulin, not when the richest man alive launches rockets for fun while children sleep on sidewalks a few miles away. You feel it, don't you? That quiet ache, that slow suffocation under the weight of bills, deadlines, quotas. You wake up tired, you go to sleep anxious, and in between you perform, pretending to be okay in a system that profits from your exhaustion. The absurdity is no longer ironic, it's structural. It's built into every transaction, every smiling brand mascot, every hollow motivational poster in a dying office. Marx warned us, under capitalism, everything becomes a commodity, even laughter, even rebellion. The system adapts, packages critique, and sells it back to us as content. Hashtag resistance, branded nihilism, so we meme our own misery. We mock the system that devours us, as if irony could save us. But sarcasm is not salvation, and satire is not a revolution. Because deep down we know, we're not laughing anymore. You've seen it everywhere in that forced smile. The coworker nodding through a panic attack. The barista thanking you while nursing a bruised wrist. The influencer selling wellness from a luxury condo while their soul flickers behind the ring light. We are told to smile, to be grateful, to hustle harder, as if personal optimism can override structural despair. But behind every smile, there's a cage. A cage made of student debt, rising rent, shrinking wages, and a culture that tells you failure is your fault, not the system's. A cage where burnout is glorified as ambition, where mental health is just another subscription plan. And still, we smile. Because to stop smiling is to risk everything. Your job, your place, your dignity. In late-stage capitalism, even your emotions are monetized. Your vibe is part of your brand. Your sadness, unmarketable. So we learn to suppress, to compartmentalize, to trade truth for performance. Marx called this alienation, the disconnection between who we are and what we do. When you sell your time, your body, your energy, you begin to lose your essence. Your humanity dissolves into the machine, and the machine demands silence, smiling silence. But what happens when we stop pretending? What happens when the mask slips, and the truth begins to bleed through? Because beneath that smile, the cage is cracking. What do you do for a living? It sounds like a simple question. But for many, the answer is, I survive. Not thrive, not grow, just survive. You clock in, you serve, you answer emails, you deliver packages, you endure. Every morning, millions drag themselves out of bed not out of purpose but out of necessity, chained to a system that punishes rest and rewards exhaustion. A system that measures your worth by output, not by joy. You're not lazy, you're exhausted. But late-stage capitalism has no room for the tired. It demands performance, even from the broken. Work used to be something we did to live. Now we live to work. And for what? Rent? Gas? A few hours of numbing distraction before doing it all again? Marx called this exploitation. The quiet theft of your time, energy, and spirit. Your labor creates value, but that value is captured by someone else. You produce profit, yet struggle to pay your own bills. Imagine a factory powered by dreams, not electricity. Each machine fed by someone's childhood hopes. That's what this system runs on. Not metal, but sacrifice. We are told to be grateful for the opportunity to serve. But what is the cost of a life spent serving systems that do not serve us? What is the price of surviving, if survival means surrendering your soul? You wake up and choose between almond milk or oat milk, between Spotify or Apple Music. between two political candidates who serve the same donors. You're told you're free. You're told this is democracy. This is capitalism at its finest, a system of endless choices. But look closer, and you'll see the cage painted gold. This isn't freedom. It's a carefully managed illusion. Real freedom would mean control over your time, your labor, your future. But in late-stage capitalism, freedom is narrowed to what you can buy. It's not about agency. It's about consumption. You choose your phone case, but not your working hours. You choose your streaming service, but not your rent. You vote every 4 years, but you never voted for the economic system that governs your entire life. Marx called this false consciousness, a mental fog where people mistake chains for jewelry, prisons for homes. It's how the system sustains itself, not just through force, but through belief. Because if you believe you're free, you won't rebel. You'll blame yourself for feeling trapped. You'll call it personal failure instead of systemic design. Imagine a man in a glass prison. He can see the world, but never touch it. People walk by and tell him he's lucky to have such a clear view. So he smiles. But the glass never shatters. This is what we call freedom now. But what if the glass isn't just transparent? What if it's also fragile? Have you ever felt alone in a crowded room? That's not a glitch in the system. It is the system. Late-stage capitalism thrives not only on labor, but on isolation. Because a lonely worker is a compliant worker, a fragmented society is easier to control. Community is dangerous to capital. Solidarity is a threat. So instead, they sell you connection. Filtered, curated, algorithmically controlled. Apps replace friendships. Subscriptions replace intimacy. We text "I miss you" from behind screens, but forget what a real touch feels like. The market commodifies even our longing, turning loneliness into opportunity. Marx never lived to see social media, but he predicted its logic. Under capitalism, everything is converted into something that can be bought and sold, even our most intimate needs. And so we drift, alone together, surrounded by noise but starved of meaning. Trapped in an economy of endless scrolling and shrinking souls, you begin to wonder, is it me? Am I broken? But you're not broken. You're living in a system designed to separate you from your fellow human, from the very connections that could set you free. Because if we loved each other deeply, we might stop competing. If we truly saw each other, we might stop buying. If we stood together, we might stop obeying. Loneliness isn't an accident. It's policy. Look around your room. What do you see? A chair, a lamp, a phone, a bottle of water, maybe even a framed quote that says, "Live, laugh, love." Now ask yourself, how many of those things are more valuable than a human life in this system? In late-stage capitalism, value is no longer measured by necessity, meaning, or soul, but by market price. That's what Marx called commodity fetishism. When the object becomes more important than the labor, the story, the pain behind it. We don't see the child who mined the rare earth metals in your phone. We don't see the woman in the sweatshop stitching that $10 shirt. We just see the product, shiny, clean, and empty. Capitalism teaches us to desire things, not people, to chase possessions, not purpose. And in that chase, we begin to price everything, including ourselves. Our time becomes hourly wages. Our creativity becomes content. Our love becomes data. Our attention becomes ad space. What's your price? It's a brutal question. But the system already answered it for you. It quantified your soul in terms of productivity. It reduced your existence to a spreadsheet. You are not a person to the system. You are a unit, a metric, a cost to be minimized or a profit to be extracted. But here's the truth. You were never meant to be sold. Every generation says the same thing. The system is failing. But what if it isn't failing at all? What if the suffering, the inequality, the exhaustion are not signs of dysfunction, but of design? Late-stage capitalism wasn't meant to uplift all. It was engineered to concentrate power, to extract more from many so the few can live like gods. When the rich get richer and the poor get blamed, that's not a bug. That's the business model. Marx knew this. The system does not collapse under its contradictions. It feeds on them. Every crisis becomes a new market. Every disaster breeds new investments. War, disease, depression, all transformed into opportunities. And when people begin to question, the system adapts. It rebrands exploitation as innovation. It sells rebellion in limited editions. It offers you a new app, a new CEO, a new hope, all while the foundation remains untouched. You think you're changing the game, but the board was rigged before you were born. It's like trying to fix a poisoned well by changing the bucket. The water still kills. The truth is painful. The system was never broken. It was never for you. But awareness is the first act of defiance. To see clearly is to begin resisting. To name the machinery is to loosen its grip. Because once you realize it was built this way, you can begin to build something else. You were told you could be anything. Work hard, stay focused, believe in yourself. That's the story, the American dream, the capitalist gospel. But what if the dream isn't a path to freedom, but a sedative? Ideology doesn't just live in textbooks or speeches. It lives in job interviews, commercials, sitcoms, and school assemblies. It whispers to you from every screen. You are where you are because you deserve it. This is the myth of meritocracy, the belief that success is purely personal and failure is always your fault. But behind that myth is a brutal silence, a silence about class, about privilege, about inherited wealth and generational pain. It's how the system hides the ladder it pulled up behind itself. Marx called this ideology, a fog that makes the world appear natural, inevitable. As if poverty were a character flaw and wealth a moral victory, as if billionaires are brilliant and workers are just unlucky. So you keep grinding, hustling, chasing a dream designed to keep you running, but never arriving. And if you fail, you blame yourself, you feel shame, you double down, you try again. But what if the game is fixed? What if the dream isn't just false but cruel? A story designed not to inspire but to pacify, not to awaken but to keep you asleep? Because the longer you believe in the lie, the less likely you are to see the truth. There comes a moment, quiet, unsettling, when you stop blaming yourself. You sit in the dark, maybe after another rejection, another bank notification, another moment of emptiness in a crowd of smiling faces, and something inside whispers, "It's not you." It's the silence that gives it away. The silence about the billionaires hoarding wealth while schools crumble. The silence about endless wars that generate profits, not peace. The silence about burnout, suicide, eviction, brushed aside by headlines selling recovery and resilience. And when you start to see that silence, you start to hear everything it was hiding. You begin to notice who speaks and who is silenced, whose pain is televised and whose is ignored, who gets second chances and who gets life sentences. Marx taught us to look beneath appearances, to trace the visible suffering back to its invisible roots, to see exploitation not as a glitch, but a gear in the machine. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start asking dangerous questions. You stop laughing at the memes and start reading between them. You realize the system doesn't just steal your labor, it steals your imagination. But the silence is breaking. In the streets, in the break rooms, in the spaces between scrolling and sleeping, people are starting to talk. Not in hashtags, not in slogans, but in truth. And truth, once spoken, spreads like fire. It doesn't happen with a riot. It doesn't begin with a manifesto. It starts with a thought, quiet, persistent, disobedient. What if this isn't all there is? You carry that thought into your job, into the supermarket, into the moments of silence between obligations. It haunts you, it frees you, because once you see the gears of the machine, you realize it can stop. Not today, not easily. But nothing built by humans is beyond destruction or reinvention. Every empire has its limits. Every lie meets its reckoning. Late-stage capitalism looks eternal. It wants you to believe it is nature, destiny, God. But it's crumbling from within, under the weight of its own contradictions. under the quiet rebellion in every tired heart that starts asking why. You are not alone in this awakening. The worker who no longer apologizes for being tired, the tenant who organizes their building, the artist who refuses to commodify their truth, the child who learns to question, not obey. These are sparks, and together they form fire. Marx once said, "The philosophers have only interpreted the world. The point, however, is to change it." That change begins now, in your mind, in your words, in your refusal to forget. The joke is over, and what rises from the ashes of laughter is revolution. Have you ever felt like something was deeply wrong, but couldn't name it? Have you ever wondered why, despite all the effort, all the striving, all the trying, it never feels like enough? Maybe it's not you that's broken. Maybe it's the system you were told to trust. If this video spoke to a part of you that has long been silent, consider supporting our work with a super thanks. Your contribution helps us keep creating content that dares to ask the questions others won't. We're building more than videos here. We're building consciousness. Subscribe if you haven't. And stay with us for the next episode, where we'll explore how alienation doesn't just live at work, but in love, in family, in every place capitalism touches. Until then, keep questioning, keep feeling, keep waking up.